You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
Welcome to the Flash Finds Podcast, the world's fastest podcast where we explore how Facebook can help you with the stuff you're into. I'm Emma Rogue, joined by Nathan the Cat Lady, a Facebook creator. So Nathan, if you're into pets, what kind of stuff can you find on Facebook?
Well, I make reels about useful tips for pet owners. For instance, cats don't like still water, so all of my cats have cat fountains.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. What a great episode. See you next time on the Flash Finds Podcast, all about discovering the stuff on Facebook you care about. Bye.
It's the lead play in our offense. Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. You look at this play where we're trying to get a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Emilio in Tennessee. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. Back to talk a little Packers. And we're going to do something similar to what we did last night, me and Tim. We did the wide receiver room, kind of broke everything down and tried to come away with a poll question. Hey, who do you think is the best wide receiver in the Packers wide receiver room? We asked the same question tonight about the cornerback room, minus Jair Alexander, of course. I think everybody would agree he's the best corner in the room. Now, whether he played like that, we'll kind of dive into that. We'll hit on some key statistics, some key metrics, if you will, and come away with a little bit more information on this cornerback room. And I think it's important to kind of hit the cornerback room because you got some questions that need to be answered. Eric Stokes is the number one question at this point, right? And then, what direction are you going to go in next year? And I think some of that will come into play with Javon Bullard. Will he or will he not play in the slot? But with that being said, how we doing tonight, fellas? Jacob, how was your day, man?
Good. I got to ditch out of work early just so I could jump on the pod here. I don't know why, but I've had a song stuck in my head. Do you ever get random songs? And this is the dumbest song ever to get stuck in your head. I have the Bob the Builder theme song. I don't know why. I don't know. I never even knew that I knew the song, but for some reason, for the last 2 days, that's all I hear in my head.
Jacob's in the walk-in cooler. Can we fix it?
Yes,
Jacob?
we can. Yeah. So anyways, that's my life.
I did not have Bob the Builder theme music on my bingo card tonight, so that's awesome. Amelia, what about you? What have you been into, man? Sorry for the rough day there yesterday, man. I know it's tough. Anytime you lose an animal, we get attached for sure. But how you doing?
Appreciate the shout out. Definitely appreciate that. But yeah, really busy day. With all that yesterday, threw me way behind schedule. So I literally just got done mowing 15 minutes ago. Ripped up. I actually did have time for a shower, so that was close. But no, I'm excited, man. I've listened to yours and Tim's about the wide receivers, so I'm excited to dive into the corners.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. We just kind of threw it together last second, and afterwards I was like, dude, I learned a lot. Got a lot better, perspective on the wide receiver room. We'll do the same thing with the corners. Did you guys have a little breeze blowing down there around Knoxville, Maryville today?
Yeah, dude, it was a good one.
Yeah,
it was 85, but it was a nice breeze.
Felt all right, man. Tomorrow's supposed to be a little different, but
not a cloud though. Couldn't catch shade for.
Right. Had to break out the bucket hat.
Definitely.
One thing after I was listening to you guys live at work yesterday, I couldn't believe how many statistical categories Bo Melton is just a dog. And like, I didn't think, I mean, granted, we have to take it with a grain of salt because of the low sample size, but he looked so good. Like I'm really intrigued about that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and again, only 24 targets, but at the same time, he's earned himself some more targets, especially with that drop percentage. And I tried to cross-check it. I think that was legit, man. He had 0 drops and 24 targets. Pretty impressive, man. Wow. So I'll tell you what else is impressive. So the poll question, guys, this is how we got it cranked up here, okay? Put it out on Twitter, said poll question for the show tonight. Packers fans, who do you think is the better cornerback? Put Corey Ballantyne, Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, or Eric Stokes. Now, obviously, I think we would all agree Jair Alexander is the best corner in that room. I hope he is because he's the highest paid in the league, right? So let's hope he is the best cornerback amongst those 5. So I listed those 4 to kind of get a better idea of what, the fan base thought was the better corner. Now, we took this down. It was about, I don't know how long ago, the screen grab that I grabbed. I guess it was 6:50 my time. So it was still pretty early in the process, only 165 votes at the time. We're going to check it at the end of the show as well. But early on, Carrington Valentine leading the way at 50.3%. Then you had Eric Stokes at 34.5%. Then Keyshawn Nixon at 7.9%. Then Corey Ballantyne at 7.3%. I want to get your all's initial thoughts on these poll results while I hop over to YouTube and see what that poll is saying as well. Go ahead, Jacob, we'll start with you, man. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I mean, a couple big takeaways is, one, I guess I didn't realize that so many people were that high on Valentine. And 2, I didn't realize that many people were that low on Keyshawn Nixon. I mean, he's a 0.6 away from Corey Ballantyne, which I'd argue, I don't know. I can't honestly remember how I think I hit Stokes on this just because I wanted to make it a little bit of evener race. But Carrington, if anybody should love Carrington more than anyone, it should be you, Clayton, right? And you've kind of, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like you've kind of pumped the brakes a little bit and said, hey, he's got some cracks in his game. That being said, it's a good problem to have that we got 4 guys on that list that people are kind of thinking could be this or that. We haven't even talked about the possibility of Kalen King making an actual impact in that room as well. So.
Right. And obviously no wide receivers other than undrafted free agent to talk about yesterday. And I left the rookies off of this, like you said, with Kalen King and any other camp invites there may or may not be. But as far as Carrington Valentine too, again, for a 7th round pick, yes, I think he played great. What else could you ask for a 7th round rookie than to step right in, be thrust into that starting cornerback role? But I just heard so many people saying this guy's a true number 1 corner. And that's where I had to pump the brakes. And again, I'm like, listen, boys, I got Kentucky blue and white all over this house. You just see the Packers studio. You don't see the Kentucky fan.
That's true.
But at the same time, there's just a lot for him to work on in this game for sure. But as far as that poll question, Emilio, what sticks out to you, man?
Yeah, I think you were kind of hitting it there. I think with Valentine, it's a little bit of recency bias. We had him out there a lot last year. We saw him a lot. That's where I was a little surprised Corey didn't get a little bit more love. The dude's been around for a little bit. He knows how to be a pro. I'm kind of – I know kind of like with Jacob on the surprise with Keyshawn, but I also then thought he is our returner. I don't think we really see him as a lockdown outside corner anyway. He's always in the slot. It's not going to be – he's not going to be the one opposite Jair. So I think it does come down to, Eric Stokes, Carrington and Valentine, but it's still a toss up with the injury that Eric Stokes is coming back from, how rough that was. But his mental attitude and all that coming back into it is exciting. So I think right now, if I had to pick one, I think it would be Stokes, just because Carrington, got a lot of burn because of injuries, right? And he had to step up and play. But I think if they had a different choice, they probably would have put somebody else out there. But he, both of them, him, Carrington and Corey, both played well last year.
Definitely. And we've also got a poll up here on YouTube. So you guys and gals scroll up, find that poll, and go ahead and get your vote in there as well. I took this a few minutes ago. Obviously, there was only 17 votes at the time. Eric Stokes leading the way, 47%. Carrington Valentine, 29%. Corey Ballantyne, 18%. Keyshawn Nixon, 6%. So really interesting to see the contrast between those two poll questions, both on Twitter and here on YouTube. Again, we'll get an update here shortly. So let me just kind of lay out some of the key metrics that I think are really important when it comes to the cornerback position. First of all, completion percentage when targeted. How efficient are quarterbacks at completing passes, not necessarily converting for first downs. I didn't go that in depth, but then I also included passer rating when targeted. I think that might be the most important statistic that we have defensively, right? Then we have points saved, and we'll talk about what that means. That's an SIS data metric, which is really cool. And then interceptions and PFF defensive grade. Okay, so we're going to take all 5 of those into consideration, right? And then we're going to tally up the numbers in which each cornerback ranks on the Packers cornerback room roster. Okay, so let's start with completion percentage first. Completion percentage is leading the way, Corey Ballantyne. Quarterbacks only completed 50% of their passes when they targeted Corey Ballantyne in 2023. And you see, not a small sample size either. 34 targets on 269 coverage snaps. So you guys know I've said all along, since the end of the year, I go back and kind of look through the notes and stuff and felt like, man, Corey Ballantyne played pretty good. Well, who did he cover? I immediately think of New Year's Eve when he covered Justin Jefferson. It's like the dude got tested quite a bit last year.
Right, that's true.
That's pretty impressive. So in second place, Carrington Valentine. That surprised me. 51.1%. So just within 2% of Corey Ballantyne. Third, Jair Alexander at 64.5%. Guys, that's a pretty big jump. That's a pretty big jump from 50 and 51%.
Also, just real quick, look at Carrington Valentine's snaps and targets. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about him being a 7th-round pick. Like, man, they threw him out there. And you know what? Availability, accountability. He, the two most important abilities, I think, of any football player, no matter what level you're playing at, whether it's high school, college, pro, arena league, whatever. Can you be on the field? Are you available? And how, accountable are you to your teammates? How accountable are you to trying to play your role in the scheme, right? And I think Carrington, that's where he gets an A+ from last year. But yeah, that 51.1 really stood out to me. Fourth, Eric Stokes, 71.4% of passes when they targeted him. Now listen, only 7 targets. This is a lot like the Bo Melton, right, that we talked about yesterday in the wide receiver room. Very limited, only 66 coverage snaps and 7 targets, but still they converted 71.4%. If you take that and couple it with the limited amount of snaps from the year before, probably going to be very similar. You go to his rookie year, had a pretty good year his rookie year. So obviously the last 2 years been down a touch, but again also battling through injury in both years as well. And then 5th place was actually Keyshawn Nixon, 73.3%. Carrington Valentine surprised me. Corey Ballantyne didn't, because I felt like he played pretty good last year. But Carrington Valentine being at 51.1% and Keyshawn Nixon being at 73.3%. Those were the two that kind of surprised me a touch. But what do you think about that, Jacob? Anything surprised you there, man?
I mean, yeah, just, the fact that people really just the Keyshawn Nixon, him being so low in both those polls and then seeing the actual evidence. I mean, he by far had more coverage snaps than anybody there. Second in targets and 73.3. That kind of indicates something a little bit like how we saw, where it just seemed like he was a little bit of a liability. And I will say the only thing that I shouldn't say only, but one of the things that has kind of turned me off of Keyshawn Nixon was when I watch his interviews, I just see an amount of cockiness and confidence that I don't think has been earned yet. Like he had, the great season with the returns here and there. He had, decent plays here and there, but more than not, I see him more as a liability. And the thing that really stuck a piece of whatever in my whatever, it was when he was asked, like, have you been grinding in the off season? Have you been working out? And he goes, no, I'm thinking about making my contract. And I was just like, oh, I just don't, because I'm trying to get that money. And it turned me off in a way where it's like, he just doesn't seem completely like he has that Packer mentality of like me before the team, or he has that more of like me before the team kind of mentality. And I don't know. That's all I'll say about that. I hope that he proves me wrong. I hope that I totally look like an idiot, but I'm very impressed with Corey Ballantyne, man. I think that he is quietly maybe going to be competing for that second or third actual outside cornerbacks there. So
yeah, I'm glad he's on the roster. That's for sure. Emilio, what do you think, man?
No, definitely. I mean, looking at it like that, yeah, Corey, like I said earlier, he's a veteran. He knows how to play the game, but it's tough looking at Keyshawn's there. Dude was in 500 coverage snaps, right?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be big bringing in those safeties that can also play the run because of their size and, hit power and all that versus, Keyshawn 500, 45 targets, and they're completing a lot of them. So, that's the big thing about trying to, bring that safety in. Do we want someone that could still cover a tight end up the seam, but also, make a run fit and stop that back on 3rd and 3. So I think we're going to see a little bit less of Keyshawn, honestly, maybe a little bit in the beginning, he'll still be out there, but I think once those young guys get their feet under him, I think he's going to kind of get phased out of the slot, specific role and, kind of use them in packages and stuff. But I really can't wait for Corey and Carrington. I hope they were both working in the off season, man, because if they came out going, man, it'll be a good season.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see if Javon Bullard truly does compete for the slot, that nickel spot, because what that would be then is big nickel. Okay. You would be, either taking Anthony Johnson Jr. or Katano Ladapo or Evan Williams and lining him up opposite Xavier McKinney and putting Javon Bullard into that slot spot. That's what we call big nickel. It's basically 5 DBs. It's still nickel, but your slot corner is going to be that hybrid safety, right? And what's cool is the reason you do that is because typically when you're in nickel, especially in press man, teams like to run at the nickel. They like to run towards the nickel. Well, if you put a safety in there that can tackle, that's going to deter them just a bit, and they're going to get smacked in the mouth a couple times. Now, what's the downside? If that safety or that hybrid, that big nickel can't cover as good as your slot corner, then that's going to make you vulnerable in the passing game. When you look at Keyshawn Nixon, 73.3% completion percentage against him, that's I can't imagine that Javon Bullard would do much worse than that based off of what we've seen, on his college tape. And again, it's college tape, so it's going to take a little time to see how he adapts at the NFL level. So let's go to
Can one of y'all or somebody in the chat refresh me? How did Corey Ballantyne get to the Packers? Did we draft him? Was he a UDFA? I don't remember.
I don't think he was drafted.
No.
Let me actually.
Yeah, I don't remember us drafting him. I just randomly he was there, and it's like, oh, we got 2 guys that have like the same name. I just remember that
he was drafted in 2019, round 6, 180. I just do not know who picked him up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing on Spot Track. It does not show who drafted him. I'm trying to see if there's anything there. Usually it'll show. Oh, here we go. 2019, the New York Giants. And then in 2020, he was on the Jets. And then 21, 22, and 23. Have I got the right guy?
This is
in 21, 22, 23. They're saying Detroit. He played for Detroit in 21, 22, and 23. That's wild. So, what the heck is going on out here? It doesn't seem right. I don't know why. I never knew he played for Detroit. Maybe he did. That's crazy, man. So that's kind of how that lays out. Let's go to the comments real quick and see what everybody's saying here. Chris Nicholas says, I think Ballantyne ends up starting across from Jair. I would not be surprised one bit. Let him compete, man. Give him a shot to try to win that job in camp, right? Larry Cano in the chat says, I voted Stokes more so from the heart. He seems like such a good guy, and I really want him to succeed. Larry, I completely relate to that. And he's got so much raw talent and ability. Like he is a speed demon. I mean, that dude in the SEC, he was one of if not the fastest cornerbacks that year coming out in the draft. And someone that competed at a high level. And in man coverage, that's what was so odd, was to see him struggle tracking the ball in man coverage when he got to the NFL. Of course, it's a different kind of speed, but you're right. I've never, much like what Jacob said earlier, listen, Jacob's not dogging on Jair. The facts are the facts. He's kind of rubbed people the wrong way at times. And And everyone kind of just goes, oh, that's Ja being Ja. Okay, got it. Be who you can afford to be. I understand. I got all that. But when it comes to Eric Stokes, it's been quite the opposite. That dude just seems like a team player. He's got a great attitude. Coaches absolutely love him. His teammates love him. So I understand where you're coming from there, Larry, for sure. Buck in the chat said, also heard Michael Pratt led the team very well during his 11 on 11. I'm assuming that's what he's saying there. Yeah. Michael Pratt, there was multiple reports coming out of OTA saying he was throwing seeds. So I am excited to see what he does in camp for sure. Adam Block says, I'm on Valentine train for now. That's me, man. That's me too. I think he should get a legit shot. What they should have, since Eric Stokes is healthy, is a three-way battle. Corey Valentine, Carrington Valentine, and Eric Stokes competing for that cornerback spot opposite Jair Alexander on the outside. And then Coach Lynn says Stokes' speed is unreal. He just has to learn how and when to use it. Also tie it to his ball skills. And that's easier said than done, right, Coach? Like I always use the analogy. I know I've used it several times on this podcast. I played shortstop and pitcher in baseball and had a pretty decent bat at an early age. My 8th grade year, I made the varsity high school team. And when I say made it, I didn't get much playing time, but they were trying to get my bat in the lineup. So they put me in left field. I'm like, oh, how hard can this be? Bro, tracking a ball, running full sprint while it's in the air, whole different ball game than fielding a hot shot to shortstop on or a line drive.
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply. You know, in the hobby, it's not easy of being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. We always hype ourselves up thinking we're going to get some kind of a mint signed Jordan Love card or something. But with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. That is until now. Introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Now when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, I finally feel like I know what I'm getting. I don't know if you saw the video me and my son did. That was us on arenaclub.com looking for new cards for my kid. Still on our YouTube channel. You should check it out. They have an incredible website. Slab packs are way better than mystery packs. Immediately after your pulls, they put your cards safe in a vault. So whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club's got the card collection platform that you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That is a crazy offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Every time I ran, it was my eyes were just jarring up and down, up and down, up. I could not figure out how to balance my sprint while keeping my eyes locked on the ball. And that's the first thing that comes to mind, Coach Lynn, when you say that. He has to tie that speed to his ball skills. It's so true, man, in every sport. You know, it's right back to what Mike Wall said. How you arrive at confrontation determines how you handle confrontation, right? Same thing, fielding the ball, playing the ball in the air, all that. I'm not saying that about his ball skills. as if like, why can't this guy figure it out? I understand the complexity to doing it. It's just that seems to be the negative aspect of his game for sure. All right, so the next key statistic, obviously, passer rating when targeted. This is one I think is probably the most important statistic. So number one on this list, passer rating when targeted. This is the quarterback's passer rating when he targets the receiver that's being covered by these cornerbacks. Okay, Corey Ballantyne, number one at 65.9. Number two, Carrington Valentine at 79.1. Number three, Jair Alexander, 98.7. Number four, Keyshawn Nixon at 100.5. And then number five is Eric Stokes at 145.8. Again, every metric you look up and go, damn, Corey Ballantyne, dude, let's go.
Right.
What do you think, Jacob?
I mean, yeah, this again, and it's not just Ballantyne, it's Ballantyne and Valentine. Like that, again, like I talked about randomly when both those guys kind of popped onto the scene. I'm like, who are I could not for the life of me distinguish the two of them, the two CB names, the two Ballantyne. I'm at the point now where it's like, I really am going to start to put some respect on them names because, I mean, they're above Jair, obviously above Keyshawn. Stokes had that small drop of the pan there, but I really do. I'm starting to become a believer, man. It's just like we said yesterday, like Bull Milton keeps coming up in these stats. Corey Ballantyne, you can't argue with stats. I mean, I would love to see him really step in and just take that. Because think about the depth that means we have in this team. Because worst case scenario, Keyshawn Nixon is like our third or fourth cornerback. Granted, if he's probably more in the slot, but just the fact that we could have some interchangeable pieces that are at least, our floor is quite high at that point.
Yeah, definitely. AFAM in the chat said, this is why I voted for number 35. United Bates says, Corey, ball out time. Mm-hmm. I know what you were saying, United Bates, but of course, AFAM, he took it another way. But yeah, that's AFAM, though. So, what do you think, Emilio? Does this surprise you? Is this what you expected? What do you think here, man, with these numbers?
Man, I feel like each time we're going to roll it back, we're going to realize that we have more depth at corner than we actually thought, which is awesome because when we coming into the season, remember draft time? All right, we got to get a corner first round or it's not going to work out.
Think about that, Emilio. Like that really is. And now we're sitting here like, I don't know who we're going to start.
Yeah, it's like wow, we were so wrong. Why didn't we crack these numbers earlier? What were we doing? No, but honestly, man, it's exciting that he has shown up like that, right? Dude's worked hard. He's been in the league for 4 years now, so he's not a rookie. He understands what he's doing, and he's coming out to play. How much longer do you have to play the game you love, right? So I think that they're all going to just kind of, come up, show up, ball out, and I think the team aspect of, getting behind everyone, being a team, playing together, playing for each other is going to be huge. It's just all going to add up to a great season, but it is also tough, man, seeing Keyshawn just dropping down. I know I picked Stokes earlier, but again, we're working with his injuries, so I'm hoping, he brings that Georgia dog mentality and that whole defense just eats,
Yeah. Can I pose a question to you guys real quick? Because I just was thinking, I think we've talked about something similar to this before, but which position do you think coming into the NFL is most difficult to master within your first, other than quarterback, right? But I think like tight end, maybe left tackle. I have to think that nowadays with the amount of talent that you're going against, a rookie cornerback going against, the likes of plug in whatever receiver there, like that has to be one of the hardest positions to just kind of get thrown into as a rookie. So like you look at some of these younger guys and how well they've actually played. I mean, Ballantyne wasn't a rookie, obviously, and Valentine kind of was, but it's like, do you think that the fact that they've shown such progress that early in their career, that's where we need to focus our attention, not at guys like Nixon or even Stokes?
Right. No, if I'm understanding your question correctly there, Jacob, the first thing that comes to mind for me is an old Bill Parcells comment or quote. He would refer to people as progress stoppers. And what he meant by that were veterans that were their career was just about over, or maybe they weren't going to be on the roster, but another, 1, 2, maybe 3 years. And you had young players that could use those snaps to improve their game, and they may have a higher ceiling than the current starter. It's not going to give you a better shot of winning right now, but when you do that, you are stopping progress on some of those younger players, right? And that's what I'm saying with Javon Bullard. If he comes out in camp and he just lights up the slot position, I know Keyshawn has already kind of gotten an attitude and said he welcomes the competition. He'll beat out anybody. It's kind of his whole approach to it, and that's the way you should be. But if Bull is the better corner in the slot, you better give him the shot because, again, not only are you potentially not putting the best cornerback out there because you paid Keyshawn a little extra money because he's a all-pro kick returner, but at the same time, you're kind of stunning his growth too as a slot corner. So, but as far as the position I think is most difficult, there's several that come to mind. I think with corner, it depends on the scheme. If you're playing a lot of zone match, cornerback will be extremely difficult to pick up. Forget playing press, forget all of the technique and all that, which there is a ton of that. If you have to throw in zone match principles where you're playing kind of that match, okay, if the 2 goes vertical, I carry him. If he does not go vertical, I pass him off and I've got to stick to the flat, whatever the call may be. That makes it even more difficult, not to mention reading the receivers, studying the receivers, understanding the little tips they're going to give you pre-snap. These are all the things I'm sure Coach Lynn is nodding his head going, yep, it's a game of chess. But corner could be one of those positions. On the flip side, we talk about Matt LaFleur not being able to put certain receivers in to the flyer position because there's so many choice routes that's involved. You got to know what the choice route is. You got to know if that corner plays me this way, if the safety buzzes down. That changes my post from an 8-yard post to a 13-yard post, or that might change the post to an out route. Like all those different choice aspects that are kind of baked into these modern day NFL offenses. I think that would be tough too. And of course, Matt LaFleur always mentions the tight end position, like you said. Yeah. You got to be able to run block, like Emilio says. You can block. You got to be able to block, and you got to be able to, obviously there's choice route aspects to the Y and the U position in this offense too. But what do you think, Emilio? What would be your answer there, man?
Yeah, no, I think you hit a lot of great points there. Tight end, definitely. I think the only thing I would say about corners, kind of like and receivers, I guess at this point, is how they're coming up as they grow up now. There's a bunch of 7-on-7. There's so many more reps for that for those skill groups, which is amazing. They come in with a lot more talent, a lot more reps, and that's huge and helps them. But again, the hashes are different. Everything is, it's still the same width of field, but when the hashes are that wide, the teams are a lot more spread out. And Matt LaFleur himself brings everybody in tight anyway. So there's so many more bodies in between the hash, in between the numbers, one for wide receivers and then 2 for, corners. I know we're kind of talking, exterior and interior slot, but it's a tough position to play, man. And then you're going up against elites, right? There's elites all over the NFL, but some of those wide receivers, they get paid the big bucks for a reason, right?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was thinking, like, other than Sauce Gardner, when's the last time you remember a rookie cornerback coming in and blowing up the league? You see that a lot lately with wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, a lot of that kind of stuff. That's where my brain went. It was like, who has been a shutdown corner right away? It's like Sauce Gardner, and then that's it.
Right. And are you asking for a mirror match corner, a press corner? Are you asking for a strictly zone corner? And half the time now, if you're in cover 4, you're basically playing, match man once they climb up 10 yards into your pocket. But that's exactly it, Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. AFAM in the chat says Ballantyne was targeted a lot too, or a lot, it seemed, as well, and responded better than average, no doubt. Dave's MX6 in here makes a great point. He said they gave Ballantyne a $500,000 signing bonus, so they have trust in him. They wanted that dude back, so they seen it too. Cody McDougal in the chat says this whole team realizes it's their time, and they're never satisfied putting in the work and grinding to get better and help bring back that Lombardi. It's on all of their minds. There definitely has been a shift in mindset over there at Lambeau. There's no doubt about that either. Coach Lynn said so hard zone matching against these wide receivers in the NFL, plus the tight ends that are like wide receivers and running backs coming out of the backfield.
And that points to our big nickel. That's why we drafted 3 safeties. The issue is tight ends going up the seam and a corner not being able to cover him, or the linebacker not having the speed to cover him. So you need a safety that has corner abilities, but it's also big enough to stop a run and still be able to stay in his hip pocket and not get, outmatched on a seam route. That's why they're looking at all these guys now.
And that seam route, that's the whole reason that the Fangio system took off is trying to control the explosive plays. And the number one way to hit an explosive play is when you catch a team playing single high and you go with a 2x2 set and just stretch that with a couple skinny posts. And whichever direction that post safety bites, you just throw to the other side. And it's explosive. So they started showing those two high safeties and playing more quarters, whether it's, country quarter spot drop or if it is zone match. All of it, when the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, he sees those two safeties on the shelf, he immediately thinks, can't go to the seam, right? So now you can go on the middle of the field underneath. That's why they call it middle field open, middle field closed. But that makes things a lot different in that regard. And that's why a lot of teams went to the 2x2 sets. Now you're seeing trying to get an isolation game, whether it's trips, tray, or bunch. You're trying to get an isolation game with the X receiver on the boundary side, and you're putting speed to that number 3 spot if the 3 isn't the Y. That's why we see Musgrave play on the outside so many times in those what would technically be a tray look, although it would be tray Y flex because he would be on the outside because you're trying to get speed to 3 because the boundary X is drawing attention from the post safety if they're not in a too high shell. So you can really do damage with a speedy receiver in that number 3 spot. And what I mean by number 3 is, you got a trip set or a tray set on one side, which simply means there's 3 targets, whether it's 3 receivers or 2 receivers and a tight end from the outside in, starting with the outside. That's your number 1, then your number 2, then your number 3. So if some people would just call that the slot. It's not technically the slot, depending on which offense is running and where the Y lines up, but you kind of get the drift. There's just such a huge game of chess going on in the NFL, which is it's a beautiful thing, the difference between college football and pro football. College football is wide open. It is just wide open, fast paced, bigger field, like you were talking about with the hashes and everything, right. A lot more, ground to cover in that regard. You got mobile quarterbacks, more speed option, read option, power option, triple option, RPO, RPR. It's just wide freaking open. You get to the NFL, it's the best of the best. And all of those offenses kind of get dwindled down to just a handful of schemes because it's literally a game of inches. It is cat and mouse, a game of chess at the NFL level. And it's high stakes, man. It's just wild, the pressure that is on these players. But all right, let's move on to the next one. Points saved. Some people are like, what in the hell are you talking about, Clayton? So SIS has a metric called points saved. Okay, and I'm going to read the definition. This is from their glossary. The total of a player's EPA, expected points, all right, and then responsibility, the total of a player's EPA responsibility while in coverage using the total points system. So the SIS system uses points. They attach points to plays. It could be negative points, it could be positive points, and that's kind of their point system that they use for grading plays. Okay, think PFF, but they do it off a point system as opposed to grades, if that makes sense. And that's if you go to the 33rd team, they use SIS as point system. Okay, so while in coverage using the total point system that distributes credit among all players on the field for a given play, with positive numbers being good. Okay, so the higher the number, the better. Totals are scaled up to map to the average points scored or allowed on a team level, with the player's snap count determining how much to adjust. For pass defenders, this includes accounting for pass rush, broken tackles, dropped interceptions, turnovers, and turnover returns. So when we go to points saved per play, this is how it lined up. First place at 0.057, Corey Ballantyne. Number 2, Keyshawn Nixon at 0.036 is in second place. In third place, Carrington Valentine at 0.016. Fourth place, Jair Alexander at 0.005. And then Eric Stokes in fifth place at negative 0.034. So once again, Corey Ballantyne leading the way amongst the DBs here. Keyshawn Nixon climbing up the ranks to the second spot in this metric here. So you're starting to see a little bit of differentiation, I guess is the right way of saying that. I don't even know if that's a correct word. I apologize for this. But you're starting to see guys kind of hop up the scale and back down the scale at what they're good at. The thing I'm noticing is Jair is right around the middle and everything, you know. But what do you think?
I was just going to say that, Clayton.
I was going to too. Darn it.
It could have just been a bad year, right? Well, let's hope that's the case, but you can't deny it.
So Chris just said in the chat.
What'd he say?
I said Chris just said that in the chat. He had a fairly poopy year.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure he said it that way too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Anything you guys want to add to this this metric here? And again, I like it because it's kind of, you know, hey, how many points according to SIS did they prevent / save, you know, in those moments?
Yeah, and it's just wild. It's my bad, Jacob. It's just wild to think that, you know, with Ja, I mean, he also had the least amount of snaps besides Stokes, you know, coverage snaps, right? Targeted even less than that. So, you know, if we want him to be that lockdown corner, I do hope that his year switches around a little bit. But once we pull these numbers out, I feel like by the end of this podcast, we're going to be Valentine might be number 2 coming out. You know, they're on 11 on 11, so it'll be cool to see when they actually start, you know, lining them up and see who gets those spots. Yeah,
no doubt. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean the Jair thing does actually kind of bother me quite a bit. He's one of the best paid cornerbacks in the league, and you talk a lot of game. Like, you should not be showing up at 3rd and 4th consistently among the group of guys we have. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking smack on the other guys, but it's like, Jair, you are one of what is he still top 5 paid cornerbacks in the league? Like, I need you to play like it, please. And again, with Valentine, really, really hopeful. I mean, I just think that we've got something within the Valentine tree there. And again, this is not even talking about Kalen King. Let's maybe give him a red shirt this year. But if for some reason he comes in with his hair on fire, that's crazy. And then the Nixon thing, it's good to see, you know, at least we have a little bit of positiveness here. But I think that might be a stat that's kind of cherry picking a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the how much Jair is getting paid. That cap number for Jair, if you can see this right here, my cursor, $23.9 million cap hit. That's 9.3% of the salary cap on the Packers team in 2024. And then you've got Keyshawn Nixon at 3.9, Eric Stokes at 3.7, Corey Ballantyne, who's just torching all of these key metrics we're talking about, only $2 million flat. There's that $500,000 signing bonus or guarantee that we talked about. And then Carrington Valentine, $940,000. So that's what I mean by Carrington. Again, people were talking like, this guy's a shutdown corner. He's a solid number 1 corner. No, he's not. But for a 7th round pick, that dude played pretty damn good, man.
Right.
So just wanted to kind of point that up as a quick reference there. So, all right, next one, interceptions. Now, listen, some people hear this and go, okay, how can you – of course, everybody wants more interceptions. I think it's worth mentioning because when you win the ball, you win the game. That's Matt LaFleur 101, right? How many times did we see cornerbacks drop interceptions last year? Linebackers drop interceptions. It's huge.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if these numbers are correct, for 2023, Corey Ballantyne had 1 interception, Keyshawn Nixon had 1 interception, and Jair Alexander had 1 interception. Okay, oof. Eric Stokes had 0, Carrington Valentine had 0. Again, how did Carrington Valentine play so many snaps and not get an interception? Remember what I said about Eric Stokes' the same problems he had tracking the ball in man coverage is what I noticed about Carrington is where kind of he needs to work on his game. So interceptions, once again, Corey Ballantyne tied for first there with Keyshawn Nixon and Jair Alexander. So
were we the lowest interception?
First thing I thought too, Jacob. I didn't check because I was afraid to. I wouldn't be surprised if we had the least amount of interceptions in the entire.
I think we must have. I honestly,
bet we had the most dropped interceptions. I guarantee you that.
Looking at this, I was listening to Mike Wall's pod with he had Carl Brooks on, and
nice.
They were talking about how Hafley was saying that they are now like leaning hard on making turnovers, forcing turnovers. This is going to be a part of our game. Like, we can't.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's peachy.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Let those opportunities slip away from us, right? We need to be a little aggressive. We need to make this happen. And I think that's going to be huge. Like what happened to the days of like Al Harris, right? When was the last time I saw, a pick and take it to the house sort of thing? So, Cowboys got 5 of them last year from one dude. Obviously that's not going to, that can't stay forever, but still, like, let's get a little action here too, huh?
Yeah, definitely. All right. Time for the PFF grade. You guys ready? This is the defensive PFF grade, because I think it's important to include a little bit of run defense in there too, okay? So PFF grade, Jair Alexander first at 75.9, had a coverage grade of 78.6, tackle grade of 60.6, run defense 59.8. All right, obviously David Long Jr. only had it was something like, I can't remember how many snaps, 190 snaps, but he was at 65.7. We didn't include him on this poll, obviously. Robert Rochelle, only 6 total snaps, 64.4. So second on our list of these top 5 guys is Corey Ballantyne at 60.8. Third would be Keyshawn Nixon at 60.0. Fourth would be Carrington Ballantyne at 57.5. And then fifth would be Eric Stokes at 51.5. Eric Stokes' coverage grade there, 45.9, the lowest on the team in the cornerback room. Might have been the lowest on the entire team, but definitely in the cornerback room. So Jair Alexander, now again, you've got human beings grading these plays, these players at PFF. Could be a little bit of bias there. We just showed you all those metrics where he was just kind of middle to, kind of mid. There could be a little bit of that superstar effect coming into play there, giving him a little bit of a pass from time to time. But nonetheless, that's how the PFF grades line up. Again, Jair Alexander was first, Corey Ballantyne second, Keyshawn Nixon third, Carrington Ballantyne fourth, and Eric Stokes fifth. What do you think about this right here, Jacob?
Who is David Long Jr.? And how did he play 7 games? And I have no idea who this human being is. He played almost twice as amount of
halfway through the season, and I believe he had ties to Joe Barry way back in LA, if I remember correctly.
Okay, yeah, because he has almost double the amount of snaps Stokes does. And okay, yeah, didn't know he had a 75.6 coverage grade. So, and he did it on almost 200 snaps. That's crazy.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I want to say when Eric Stokes came back and hurt his hammy, that's when they went and got David Long Jr. I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jacob. Finish your thought, bro.
No, I mean, other than that, it's just, Ballantyne, again, rising to the top of the list there. That just, you can't argue with certain numbers. And, Stokes, he has such a small sample size that it's hard to even, I don't like seeing these negative stats with him, because it's like, dude, he played like 14 snaps. You know what I mean? So let's hopefully let him, I'm going to still keep my confidence in him, but I'm starting to just, I might buy me a Ballantyne jersey, dude.
Be careful.
You can grab it at Ross.
He's only got 1 year left on his deal, bro. Okay, you might be pulling an Aaron Jones. If you guys can see back here, Mandy bought me this autographed helmet, Aaron Jones, right? And you can't see the autograph for a reason. The day that he signed with the Vikings, she walked up here and she looked like somebody had shot her puppy. She walked in, grabbed that helmet, and I looked back at her like, "What are you doing?" And she just turned it around and walked back out. I was like, "God love." So appreciate you.
You pull up that PFF real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all I was saying, going back to it at the beginning of the show, was Eric Stokes had 2 games and 110 snaps, right? So they put him out there. That's all I was trying to say earlier, was if he was healthy and ready to go, they want him to be out there. They want him to play. Also, Clayton, you left out the 2 greens on his card there. 76 run defense and a 79 tackling. We need that. But
that's a good point.
No, for real though, I am excited about Ballantyne. We don't care about
it until we watch the highlight reels and they're breaking tackles, right? Then we care.
Yeah, right. But no, I mean, the coverage grade is brutal for Stokes, but his attitude and everything is exciting for this year. But like you said, Jacob, who is David? Where did he go? Is he on the team anymore? And Ballantyne is going to ball out this year. I think we need to pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, anything else to add there, bro? Jacob said, I'm done with you guys.
Yeah, no, Jacob gave up. And Keyshawn almost played 1,000 snaps. Like, I think that number is going to come down a lot. I think he's going to be around like 750.
Yeah.
750, 600-ish, depending on, how the packages work out.
Yeah. Going to the chat here, Dave's MX6 says, think we were 30th. I think he was talking about in interceptions. So that would not surprise me one bit. United Bates says, I think only the Titans had less interceptions. We had 7, they had 6. So there you go. That would lead you to believe that it was 31st. So somewhere around 30, 31st would probably be where they ended up for sure. Larry Cano in the chat says, Stokes' integration back in last year didn't do him any favors. In the couple of games he was available, they threw him in full-time without giving him time to acclimate after being out for over a year. That's a great point. And again, he pulled the hammy on special teams. So It's like not only was he playing corner, it was, hey, get out there and play specials. That's a great point, Larry, for sure. Chris Nichols in the chat said, this shows the flaws with PFF with Jair inflated grade. Again, Chris, it's not the tell-all, end-all, right? We talk about that every time we share PFF because it's such a – what's the right word? Such a polarizing metric or site. It's like people either love it and they think it's the gospel or they hate it. I try to fall right in the middle. It's another tool, right? And I think you make a great point, Chris, that there is, again, I think there's a little superstar effect to how some players are graded for sure. Because if that's how the stats lined up, everything we just broke down as far as completion percentage when targeted, passer rating when targeted, points saved per play, interceptions, all that, it would lead you to believe he had not quite as good a year as maybe PFF was saying. Now, keep in mind too that PFF, there was some games where he graded out really well. Think of the Dallas game, right? The interception. That was huge, right? He probably had a great grade in that game, and that's going to kind of overinflate it. So that's one thing Ryan does really good on his pod is when he's looking at some of these statistics, he'll look up and go, okay, yeah, this guy, yeah, he had 3 games where he had, 2 interceptions in each game. Other than that, he was hot garbage. It may have a high PFF grade there. Because those 3 games he graded, I'm just kind of theoretically speaking, those 3 games he graded out in the 90s, that might land him in the 80s, although he had several games where he graded out in the 50s. And that's why it is important to kind of look at it week by week at times too. But I definitely wanted to include PFF grades into this whole little exercise here for sure. So, all right. So with that being said, you guys ready for the final grade here, or the final ranking, I should say. So we took in completion percentage, passer rating when targeted, points saved per play, PFF grade, and interceptions. All right. Those are 5 key statistics. We take those numbers, we rank them amongst these 5 corners that we're kind of dividing up here. Obviously, you get your average number. The lower number wins, okay? In first place is Corey Ballantyne at 1.2 was his grade, his number. Second place, Jair Alexander at 2.4. Third place, Carrington Valentine, 2.6. So you're talking about the highest paid corner in the league, that $23.9 million cap hit, only 0.2 of a point ahead of Carrington Valentine's 7th round pick that's making $900,000. Pretty cool. Keyshawn Nixon, 4th at a 3.0, and then Eric Stokes, 5th at 4.2. So based off of what I think are some of, if not the most important statistics, and again, statistics aren't everything, based off of those key statistics from last year, those 5 key statistics, one of those, of course, being a PFF grade, you got to give Corey Ballantyne a shot to play more snaps this year, man. You've got to give him a legit shot to play opposite Jair Alexander. You got to. And you've also got to give Javon Bullard a chance to improve at the slot position. And not just go, no, Keyshawn wants to play slot. We're going to let him play slot. Screw that. The best 11 go out there to play. Just like we always talk about, the best 5 need to be on the offensive line. Right. What do you guys think about that? Is that kind of how you see it based off the stats we looked? Would you maybe disagree with any of this? What do you think, Jacob?
I mean, yeah, after seeing the evidence, it's hard to argue with this. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Jair was number 2.
Right, me too.
Based
on
PFF,
right?
Right. And so, that being said, I can't help but wonder, is this the way that this is going to shake out in the season? Is there a way that Kalen King somehow ends up being number 2 once we reevaluate these stats and maybe look at them after this next year? That's going to be real fun to do, especially with certain guys here. I like you talked about, Clayton. I think that you have to give Corey Valentine a first look. I just think you have to. And if Keyshawn Nixon wants to pout about it, or if about him possibly getting replaced in the slot, it's put up or shut up kind of time. And we've looked at this list, and it's like, I don't like the pattern. The more we pay the cornerback, it seems like the less they perform. So
yeah,
we'll see.
That's a real thing in the league too. You can look at statistics across the league. When someone lands a big deal, more times than not, their production kind of drops a little bit. It's like they're no longer chasing that carrot. And that's not to dog anyone. I think that's just human nature. You know how it is, Emilio. You get comfortable. You get comfortable at a job when you're doing good and everything's going good. It's easy.
I'll say one thing. I'm in a salaried position. Once I hit my hours, I'll tell you what, I ain't saying I'm not a good worker, but I ain't the best worker I used to be. I'm just saying. I
love how Jacob's over here giving Jair hell, man. Look at what he's getting paid. Jacob, what about your job? I kind of coasted in.
Jacob's counting down 39, 40 for you. I'm going to the cooler, guys.
I'm going. So,
that's how he got here early tonight. That's how he got here in time. He hit the.
They still think I'm in the cooler, yeah.
Yeah, he's on the clock actually right now. Once we're done, he's gonna run back real quick, clock out, and then he's good for the night. But no, honestly, now thinking about it, as Valentine our Rasul or our Dre, when we brought him over and they tear it up, they get paid. I think that's a possibility. That everyone wants to make it in the NFL. Dude was born in Jamaica, right? So he come here, we lived in Kansas and then came and played. I think that's amazing. That's your lifelong dream, right? Everyone talks about going to play in the NFL. So, he's got to ball out and get his money. So at some point, if he does end up having to leave, I appreciate his time here. And looking back on it, when we watch the rest of this tape, I'm definitely going to have to key in on 35 and see what it looks like back there, because the dude played well, and it's all those reps that you're not paying attention to every time. You look at the reps where he's getting a pass thrown to him, but you got to pay attention to the reps where he's not getting a pass thrown to him. If you're not hearing his name, that's a good thing. He's in his hip pocket and all that.
Definitely. Ron Sample says, can you explain points saved per play one more time for us slower kids in the back? So again, SIS, they use a point system where they grade every single player on every single play. And the higher the point, obviously the more value attached to that player. It's the same system that the 33rd team uses. So once again, I'll just read it word for word off of their site. It says points saved is the total of a player's EPA responsibility while in coverage using the total point system that distributes credit among all players on the field for a given play, with positive numbers being good. Totals are scaled up to map to the average points scored or allowed on a team level, with the player's snap count determining how much to adjust. For pass defenders, this includes accounting for pass rush, broken tackles, dropped interceptions, turnovers, and turnover returns. So again, it's points saved. It's the points they prevented on any given play at the cornerback position. So if they had not made that play, that's how many points they probably would have allowed, if that makes sense. That's the way that I understand it. And it's one of many metrics SIS uses, which is Sports Information Solutions, which is really starting to take off. They're right there with PFF. I love using PFF, Sports Information Solutions, and watching the tape every play at least 3 times. That's kind of how I go about determining, okay, here's what actually happened on the field. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm great at watching tape or dissecting it, but I definitely don't want to be one of those guys that's just, well, look at the numbers, look at the numbers, look at the numbers. No, stop being lazy. Watch the tape. Watch what actually happened on the field, right? So, yeah. But hopefully that answered your question there, Ron. I think we have one more marked here. Ooh, where's it at? Oh, I love this. Yeah, Respect Orange just says, time to rewatch Valentine. Go back and watch every snap, right? That's where it gets fun. And again, many people are like, when's the season start? There's plenty of – listen, the season's going to be here in a blink of an eye. take this time to go back and watch this stuff and kind of better understand, all right, where exactly is the team at this specific moment, right? That's what we try to do, and that's why we've been doing these watch-alongs together with the highlight reels. So let's see here. Yeah, pretty funny. When you say Kansas, was that – I can't remember. I think it was you, Emilio.
Yeah, that's where Valentine grew up.
Going from Jamaica to Kansas, I bet he was like, what in the world?
And then he ran into AFAM. That would have been brutal.
Exactly. Let's see here. What else we got? Prince in the chat said, really starting to question the Nixon contract. The new kickoff rules may show his value, but no guarantee teams won't still boom it into the end zone and take the touchback. Yeah, I'm okay with it, Prince. I'm going to share this real quick, and I'll tell you why I'm okay with it. When you look at his cap hit with Keyshawn Nixon, it's only $3.9 million. You're getting whether we think the rules will or will not affect Keyshawn Nixon, and maybe they'll just kick it out of the end zone. The goal is to have the best player on the field, right? When it comes to kick return, it's no different. He was the best kick returner in all of the National Football League the last 2 years. So you have hands down the best kick returner on your roster. Mm-hmm. And what I think they were kind of looking at is you set the floor for the slot position. You've got a guy that's got experience. Now let's see if we can upgrade that, and all of his value is really in the kick return game. At $3.9 million, I'm totally okay with that. If I remember correctly, too, I think Spot Track had his value at something like $5 or $6 million per. So to me, pretty good with how it's structured. Now keep in mind that they did tack on voidable years. Like if we look at his contract as a whole real quick, and we'll get out of here. 2024 cap hit. No, there wasn't voidable years. Okay. 2024, his cap hit is $3.9 million. And his dead cap is 6.5 million. His cap hit jumps in 2025 to 6.8 million, but his dead cap is 4.3 million. So you could cut him loose, and you could free up what is that, roughly $2.5 million if you just cut him outright. And then in 2026, it's $7.1 million cap hit. With a dead cap of 2.1 million. So you could cut him in 2026 and free up, roughly $5 million in cap. You could also, you've got maneuverability there when it comes to the roster bonus here, that 2.8 million. You could convert that to signing bonus and tack on voidable years, but there's no reason for the Packers to do it with their current situation. You could do the same thing with a good portion of this 4.3 million. Again, it's what we talk about all the time. A 3-year deal is really a 2-year deal. A 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal. That's kind of how the modern day NFL works. So I'm okay with it personally. I really am. But just like I said, you set the floor in the slot position, and you get the best kick returner in the game. Hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better because, there you go. Dave said it in the chat, right? 2-time All-Pro, put respect with a K is how I like to say it on Nixon, LOL. So,
well, I think you're right on with that, Clayton, right? That who else other teams would have paid him. I mean, probably more, but, we had the first crack at it, so I'm not mad at it. If this year doesn't work out, all right, fine. We'll take the hit next year and move on. But I don't think that I think that if we make, a nice run this year, I think Keyshawn's going to see. I think he's going to want to come back and work. Like, tagging back to what Jacob was saying about, I just want to get my contract figured out. Don't love that. But now that it's figured out, all right, let's move past that. And, all right, we're all worried about making money someday. That's no problem. All right, now let's go out there and work, and let's bring home, the Lombardi.
Definitely. Jacob, you got anything else you want to add, bud, before we go?
No, I think I'm good. What are you laughing at, Emilio?
No.
No.
Oh, no, we suck again.
Oh, no, we suck again.
Oh, man. Well, this was fun, man. Again, these are things that I've always done in the off season. Maybe not to this, level of depth, because this is the first year I've had access to SIS. But these are just kind of the deep dives I do because I'm a football nerd. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool, man. I was going to do this stuff anyway, and we're turning into podcast form and having a great conversation with good friends. This is a really good time, and I appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. This is a lot of fun.
Definitely. So. We got to be thankful for Goody, right? Breaking down the wide receiver in the corner room, we had a lot more depth. Well, obviously the wide receiver, we had depth, but we were crazy how we were worried about corners in the draft. And Goody's like, dude, just take a chill pill, man. I got a 7th rounder coming your way. Just breathe.
Right. I'm telling you, Jacob mentioned Kalen King several times. I'm really excited to see what he does, man. Right. Go ahead, Jacob.
I think that this exercise was great because, like Emilio just said, we kind of knew We had some guys in the wide receiver room that could possibly step up, but I don't think we've realized how, like, statistically, clearly they are, like, Bo Melton's, even like Malik Heath, those kind of lower rung guys where it's like, if God forbid something happens to our top, 3-4 positional groups, even now when we look at cornerback, like you tell me worst case scenario, like week 4, Valentine's hurt, Jair's hurt, that we have, Ballantyne and insert whatever cornerback there. It's like, I'm still not freaking out because of the fact that we have that depth. So, I just think it's a great,
it's a long season.
It's a long season. Jacob. It's a long season. We're going to get banged up. So it's just good to know that for the first time in a long time, I'm more confident in the back half of our roster than I've ever been. So,
right.
Definitely. And it's cool, man. The youngest team in the NFL, right? If I understood correctly.
For what, second year in a row, right?
Second year, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I mean, like they were saying, if eventually we go 18, 19, 20 games or whatever, what if they put a pitch count on them, and then we actually legitimately have to rotate players? That would be wild. But Goody's already ahead of the game. We're 2 years ahead if that's the case. We already have the depth. We're ready to rotate. Jock can only play 70% of the games or 70% of the snaps throughout the season. All right, he gets a max counter of 1,500. All right, we got to make sure we don't put him in there. We got to use him. So that's, I think Goody really is playing chess right now, coming up, moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Sample says, I really enjoy these deeper looks. I'd never do it myself, so this is great, man. Hey, we're glad you enjoyed it, man. Again, we all learn something when we do it. That's why we do it. It's pretty cool that we can kind of hang out and break it down together. That's what makes it even more enjoyable, man, for sure. So football is awesome. It's even better with good friends, man. With that being said, we'll get out of here. Again, we're back to doing the intro. I done multiple copyright checks. It cleared. Now, that's the thing that sucks is they could smack us in the mouth, and if they do, you'll find us on Rumble. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
how about these hands?
Exactly. So, with that being said, we'll be back tomorrow. The goal, if everything falls into place tomorrow, that swimming pool is going to be looking good tomorrow. So I don't know if I can do it or not, but I'm going to try to do 3 shows tomorrow. The goal is 2 Packer shows and a college football podcast. I had Robert text me earlier, one of the listeners. I think he's in the 920, if I remember correctly, but he texted me and just giving ideas and stuff about the college football podcast. People are really excited about that. So we're going to continue to do that. Again, you'll get 1, maybe 2 of those a week. And who knows, as we get later into the football season, maybe we'll do a couple more. But again, we don't want to take away from PTA Live. That'll always be top priority here in the evening, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. So Emilio, Jacob, thank y'all for joining me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Always.
Yeah, you gonna help me out, Emilio, or no?
Yeah.
Can you get it?
Sorry, Tim.
Wow.
Awesome in the dump.
Whoops.
That's
For those of you listening on the pod.
Thank you for making us part of your day. Hey, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go encourage somebody, man. This world right now, we're getting closer and closer to election, and everybody's divided. That's exactly what they want us to be. Go out and encourage somebody, man. Let's get along. We're stuck on this big ball of mud for a little bit together. Let's try to share a couple laughs and lift each other up. All right. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.